The weekend cannot receive what the releasing does not give it. That is the specific problem with the Friday that ends without the releasing. The person who carries the week across the weekend threshold carries it into the days that were designed for something different. Saturday receives a person who is still in Thursday's unresolved tension. Sunday receives a person whose interior is still occupied by what Monday started and Friday is still holding. The weekend's architecture is different from the week's, but it cannot produce its designed function for the person who arrived in it, still carrying what the week produced. The releasing is not the solving. The releasing does not require the week's unresolved things to be resolved before the person can put them down. It requires only the decision, the specific, deliberate, chosen act of placing what has been carried in the hands, designed to hold it and letting the carrying stop. The thing stays unresolved. The person stops carrying it. The weekend receives the person who put it down rather than the person who carried it in. This is Friday, May 22nd, the last morning of the week. And before the day adds its final layer, before the Friday afternoon has deposited into the weekend what it will deposit, regardless of what is chosen in this prayer, you came here. To release, before the releasing becomes the burden the weekend is also carrying. To put down before the putting down requires undoing an entire weekend of continued carrying. His word declares in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28, that Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Come. Before the weekend begins, come weary and burdened rather than waiting to arrive refreshed, and receive from the coming what the coming to the right place provides, the rest, not manufactured by the weekend's activities, given by the one who receives the burdened and gives rest in return. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, "Lord, I release what I have been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week and I receive the rest you prepared." Write it as the giving and the receiving, the putting down and the taking up of something different in its place. Like this video, as an act of choosing the release over the continued carrying. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every morning together, especially the Fridays, when the releasing of what the week produced is what makes the weekend possible in the form the weekend was designed to take. And share this prayer with someone whose Friday is ending a week of genuine carrying. Not to tell them the carrying was unnecessary, to give them the releasing that makes the weekend different from the week. Now let us release what the week produced before the weekend inherits it unchanged. Lord, my God and my Father, I come before you on this Friday morning, and I inventory honestly and specifically what I have been carrying this week that needs to be put down before the weekend begins. I've been carrying the relationship weight, the tension with the person who's in a difficult season, the conversation that happened and left something unresolved between us, the concern for the person I love, whose situation I cannot fix, and whose well-being I have been carrying as a continuous interior weight through every day of the week. The relational weight is real. I have been carrying it. I put it down now. I have been carrying the work weight, the project that is not finished, the decision that was not made cleanly, the output that fell short of what was intended, the responsibility for outcomes that were in my area and that the week did not fully deliver. The professional weight is real. I have been carrying it. I put it down now. I have been carrying the self-weight, the assessment of how the week went relative to what it should have been. The gap between the person I intended to be this week and the person the week actually produced. The self-critical inventory that has been running as background processing since at least Wednesday. The self-weight is real. I have been carrying it. I put it down now. And I have been carrying the forward weight. The anticipatory carrying of next week before next week has had a chance to present itself. The preemptive worrying about what Monday will bring. The mental preparation for difficulties that have not yet arrived. The forward weight is real, and it has been compounding the present, carrying with weight that does not yet belong to this week. I put it down now. These are what I have been carrying. I name each one. I put each one down before you, in your hands. And Father, I want to pause at the forward weight for a moment before releasing it, because the forward weight has a specific logic to it that makes the releasing feel counterproductive. The logic says, if I put down the anticipatory processing of next week, I will arrive at Monday unprepared. The preparation for Monday is the justification for the carrying. The carrying serves the readiness. But the carrying of the forward weight through the weekend does not actually prepare the person for Monday. It produces the experience of having thought about Monday all weekend, without the rest that would make the thinking about Monday productive. The person who carries the forward weight through Saturday and Sunday arrives at Monday, having spent the weekend in a mental version of the Monday they were preparing for. And they are more tired for the arriving than they would have been had they rested and arrived at Monday fresh. The releasing of the forward weight is not the abandoning of preparation. Monday's preparation happens best on Monday morning, from the position of the rested person who came to Monday from the genuine rest of the weekend, not from the position of the person who spent the weekend in Monday's anticipation and arrived depleted by the anticipation. Your word declares in the book of Matthew chapter 6 verse 34 that do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Tomorrow's trouble is tomorrow's. The releasing of the forward weight is the practical application of this instruction. Monday belongs to Monday. The weekend belongs to the weekend. The releasing gives each what belongs to it. These are what I have been carrying. I name each one. I put each one down before you, in your hands, with the trust that what is placed in your hands is received by your hands and held by the one who actually has the capacity to hold what the person was not designed to carry alone. Your word declares in the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7 to cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cares for you. The specific, personal, attentive care of the God who receives what is cast. The casting is not dropping into a void. It is giving to the one who was already attending to what was being carried and who receives the handing over with the full care of the one who was there in the week's every difficult moment. Father, I want to pray about what makes the releasing of the relationship weight the hardest of the four, because releasing the relationship weight feels like releasing the relationship, like the putting down is a withdrawal of the caring. Like the person who gives the relationship concern to God has stopped caring about the relationship. And for the person who loves the relationship and whose carrying of the weight is an expression of that love, the putting down feels like unfaithfulness. But the carrying of the relationship weight is not the caring for the relationship. It is the carrying of the weight around the caring. The caring remains when the weight is released. The love for the person is unchanged by the releasing of the anxiety about the person. The concern for the outcome is separate from the outcome, and the releasing of the anxiety about the outcome does not reduce the investment in what produces the outcome. What the releasing does is free the caring from the weight that was bending it. The caring that was bent under the weight of the carrying was less capable of actually caring than the caring that is freed from the weight by the releasing. The relationship receives more genuine, present, undistorted love from the person who put the weight down than from the person who was carrying the weight while attempting to love. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22, to cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. The casting is for the person sustaining. The relationship is not less cared for when the carer is sustained rather than shaken. The person who is sustained by God cares for the relationship from the sustained position. The person who is shaken by the weight of the relationship cares for it from the shaken position. The released caring is better caring. Lord, I release what I have been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week, and I receive the rest you prepared. And Father, I want to ask for something about the releasing of the work weight. Because the work weight carries a specific kind of guilt that the relationship weight does not. The work weight is unfinished, and unfinished work carries the specific accusation that the putting down is irresponsible. That the person who puts down the unfinished work for the weekend is the person who is not taking seriously what the work requires. But the work weight is not the work. The weight around the work is what is being released. The unfinished project is still unfinished. The releasing does not pretend otherwise. The decision that was not made cleanly is still in the state it is in. The releasing does not resolve it. What is released is the carrying of the unfinished work through the weekend in a way that prevents the weekend from being what the weekend was designed to be. The unfinished work will be there on Monday, in the same state it was in on Friday. The releasing of the work weight does not abandon the work. It places the work in the appropriate position for the weekend, present on Monday's agenda, absent from Saturday's interior. The work does not lose ground by the releasing. The person gains the ground of the rest that the releasing creates. Your word declares in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 10, that the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, shall not do any work when the work is finished. Shall not. The command presupposes the work is not finished. The work is never finished. The Sabbath is the boundary that is set against the work's claim to all the time rather than the time it has been allotted. The releasing of the work weight on Friday is the setting of that boundary. The work is given its 5 days. The weekend is given what belongs to it. Lord, I release what I have been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week, and I receive the rest you prepared. Lord, I want to pray now about what the weekend receives when the releasing has happened. It receives the person who arrived rather than the person who was still in the week. The person who walked into the Friday evening, having put down what the week produced, is actually in the Friday evening. They are present to what the evening offers. They can receive the conversation with the people who share the weekend because their interior is not occupied by the conversation from Tuesday that is still running. They can be in the Saturday morning because their mind is not in the Monday morning that is coming. That presence is the gift the releasing gives to the people who share the weekend. The parent who released the work weight on Friday evening is the parent who is actually at the Saturday morning with the children. Not physically present while mentally elsewhere, actually there, receiving what Saturday morning with the children is, which is unrepeatable, which does not exist again, which is entirely available to the present person and entirely unavailable to the person who is still in the week. Your word declares in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 10, that whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. The all your might requires the presence that the releasing creates. The person who is in Saturday with all their might is the person who put down the week before Saturday began. The doing with all your might is only possible for the person who is actually where the doing is happening. Do the weekend with all your might, Lord, the rest with all your might, the presence with all your might, the Saturday with all your might, all of which requires the releasing before the weekend begins. And I want to name something specific about what Sunday receives when the releasing happened on Friday rather than being deferred to Sunday morning. The person who released on Friday arrives at Sunday having rested genuinely through Saturday, not planning to do the releasing on Sunday morning that should have happened on Friday. The Sunday morning prayer finds the interior already cleared, already in the restorative position, already having received something from the Saturday that the unrelieved carrying would have prevented. The Sunday prayer from the released position is deeper. It reaches further into what God is preparing for the new week because it is not competing with the residue of the previous week that the releasing should have addressed. The Sunday person who cleared on Friday is ready to receive the new week's preparation in a way the Sunday person who is still managing the previous week's residue is not. Your word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. The renewing happens in the waiting, in the released position. The person who has put down what the week produced and has entered the weekend in the waiting posture receives the renewing that prepares for the next week, the soaring and the running and the not growing weary. All of it available to the person who released on Friday rather than carried through to Sunday. Release today, Lord, all of it. So the Sunday's prayer finds the soil already prepared for what it is planting. And Father, I want to ask for something about what the release self-weight specifically frees, because the self-weight, the carrying of the self-critical assessment of the week, is the weight that most directly shapes the quality of the person the weekend receives. The person who is still carrying the self-assessment arrives at the weekend as the person the self-assessment produced, somewhat diminished, somewhat contracted, somewhat more defended than the person who arrived without the week's verdict running. The released self-assessment allows the actual person to arrive at the weekend, not the week's version of the person, not the gap between the intended and the actual. The actual person, the one who gave what the week required imperfectly and genuinely, and who is now done giving and is present in the first moment of the weekend as the person who was there through all of it. Your word declares in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 1, that there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. The self-assessment's condemnation does not have legal standing. The week's verdict on the person is not the final verdict. The releasing of the self-weight is the releasing of the illegitimate verdict and the receiving of the one that actually stands. No condemnation. The weekend receives that person, the actual person, unvindicted by the week's assessment, free to be who they are in the days the week was not. Lord, I release what I have been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week and I receive the rest you prepared. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to receive something about the specific quality of the rest the releasing creates. The rest is not the absence of activity. The weekend will have activity. People to see, things to do, the ordinary life that continues through the weekend as it continues through the week. The rest is the absence of the carrying, the activity without the weight, the Saturday that is active and fully engaged and genuinely present and not carrying what the releasing put down. That is the rest, the Sabbath rest. The rest that belongs not to the elimination of all engagement, but to the cessation of the burden that the week required and the weekend was not designed for. And the rest restores something specific that the carrying spent, the presence, the genuine, undivided, fully here quality of the person who is actually in the moment they are in, rather than in the moments they are carrying from the previous week or anticipating from the next one. The presence is what the carrying depletes and what the rest restores. And the restored presence is what the weekend's people deserve and what the releasing makes possible. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 2 through 3, that he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. The restoring is the function of the rest that the releasing creates. And it is the shepherd who leads into the restoring, rather than the person who generates the restoration through sufficient recuperation. The releasing is the following of the shepherd into the green pasture, not the manufacturing of the green pasture. The following of the one who knows where it is, and who leads into it when what was carried has been put down. Follow the shepherd this weekend, Lord, into the restoring, into the quiet waters, into the actual green pasture of the days that were designed for the rest that the releasing makes possible. Let the soul be restored, not maintained at the depleted level, restored, ready for the Monday that follows the restored Sunday. And I want to close with the specific word for the Friday person who finds the releasing difficult because what they are carrying feels too important to put down. The things that feel too important to put down are the things most urgently in need of being put down. Not because they are not important, because importance does not increase the person's capacity to carry them. Important things carried beyond the person's capacity produce the same distortion that unimportant things carried beyond capacity produce. The distortion is a function of the carrying, not the importance of what is being carried. And the God who receives what is important does not receive it as less important than the person was holding it. He receives important things with the full care of the one whose capacity to hold them is not limited by what the week has already cost. Your word declares in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, that the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. God. The peace guards what was released. The important thing is not abandoned when it is released to God. It is guarded by peace that surpasses understanding, in the hands that were built for holding what human hands were not designed to carry across the weekend. Put it down, the important thing, in the right hands, and receive the rest that the releasing gives. And I want to name something about what the person who consistently releases on Friday develops over time. A different relationship to the week itself. The person who knows they will release at the end of the week gives the week more freely through its days. The giving is not diminished by the knowledge that it will be released at the end. It is freed by it. The person who knows the week will be released does not have to grip what the week produced. They can give fully through the week because the releasing is coming. The giving and the releasing are not in tension. They are the rhythm. Give through the week. Release at its end. Receive from the weekend. Begin again. That rhythm, practiced over many Fridays, produces a different quality of life than the person who carries each week's residue forward into the next. The person who releases consistently is not burdened by the accumulation of previous weeks. Each week is given and released. The accumulation does not compound, and the person carrying only the current week's weight is lighter than the person carrying the current week plus every unreleased week before it. Your word declares in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 22 through 23, that because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness, new every morning. The release into the new. The Friday releasing that makes the Saturday morning new. The compassion that was present through the week's carrying is present again in the weekend's releasing. Great is his faithfulness, through the carrying, through the releasing, through the restoring, into the new beginning. Put it down, the important thing, in the right hands, and receive the rest that the releasing gives. Lord, I release what I have been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week, and I receive the rest you prepared. That is the declaration this Friday closes with. The week is given. The carrying is done. The weekend receives the person who put down what the week produced, rather than the person who carried it across the threshold unchanged. And the rest that follows the releasing is not the recovery from the carrying. It is the gift that was prepared for the person who finally put it down. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. Lord, I release what I've been carrying before this weekend begins. I give you the week and I receive the rest you prepared, and then let the releasing hold. When the week's weight tries to reclaim its position in the weekend interior, return to the putting down. It is already in God's hands. Leave it there. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, and tomorrow we begin the weekend together. Share this prayer with someone whose Friday is ending a week of heavy carrying. not after the carrying has broken them. Before the weekend inherits what the releasing can still give it time to release. May the Lord receive everything you release today with the full attention and care of the one who was in every moment the carrying was heaviest. May the weekend that follows the releasing receive the actual you rather than the week's version of you. May the green pasture and the quiet waters of the days that were designed for rest produce the specific restoration that the releasing made room for. And may you arrive at Monday having rested in the way that only putting down the week before the weekend begins can produce. In Jesus' name, amen.